Take control of your life. Break the chains and rise. No more feeling powerless. No more shame. Take your power. Break out of the pain. Because it's more than fornication. More than procreation. It's not just self-stimulation. Sex energy is for creation and transformation into a new destination. Porn Talk. Yeah. Change your heart from dark to light. Porn Talk. Yeah. Break free. Take back your power and rise. I said take back your power. I said take back your power. Take back your power and rise.
This is Porn Talk. This is Porn Talk Live. Here is your host, Eric Zuzak.
Welcome to Porn Talk. This is Powerful Eric. This show is not just about breaking addictions. It's about breaking belief systems. We have another incredible chain breaker with us today, Steve McElmurry. Steve is a board-certified nurse coach and Maxwell Leadership Team member, known for his unique life experiences and ability to connect authentically. In this episode, we'll explore the unexpected benefits to pornography, how Steve's diverse background shapes his approach to this taboo topic, the power of failing forward in overcoming addiction, practical strategies for personal growth and communication. If you're ready to challenge your assumptions and gain new insights, this episode is a must listen. Subscribe now and join me, Powerful Eric, for a conversation that promises to be as enlightening as it is unforgettable. Help me welcome Steve McElmurry. Welcome, Steve.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Let's jump right in. The benefits of pornography? What are you talking about? What are the benefits of pornography?
So I'm like everybody else, right? I don't want to talk about this thing. Like, why couldn't I have just been a meth addict, right? That's at least socially acceptable, or an alcoholic. That would have been better, maybe.
Yeah.
But so that title comes from, I wrote that title as a paper when I was in nursing school in a philosophy class, where we had to write about some big social issue, right? And we can write about anything we want, except we cannot talk about gay rights, abortion, or gun control. Well, that's a bummer, because any one of those three would have been fun. And so I asked the instructor, like, okay, I've already picked something else, but like, why? So the reason was because those three topics are all overdone, and they're all just rehashed, right? Everybody's got the same argument, whatever. So I'm like, okay, well, I've already picked something else anyway. But so he asked me what, and I said, I'm going to write about the benefits of pornography. And he wrote me back, like, in all capital letters. Like, what is that? Well, hopefully I get the paper done on time and you can read it. The first time I just told my wife I'm writing a paper. I didn't tell her about what, right? Just a paper, and I got to write about social issues, and I just downplayed it, right? Because I don't want to talk about this. And so I find myself in church. I'm in line for men's breakfast, and a friend of mine behind me, I happen to be standing behind one of the elders in church, and a friend of mine behind me said, "What are you doing in school?" I'm like, well, I'm working on this paper right now. Oh, what's the paper about? What are you calling it? I'd never been asked that before. I'm like, well, I'm standing in church. I can either lie about it. That might not be healthy in church. Or I guess, okay, well, I'm going to tell you, and I wonder if I can eat breakfast before they kick me out. Because, like, if I'm an alcoholic or one of those socially acceptable problems, right, then in the church we accept that. And we'll maybe pray for you or whatever.
Yeah.
porn is nasty and dirty and shameful and all those things. And so you can't, like, if you're going to do that, you can't be at this church, like all that kind of stuff. Right.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, well, I'm writing a paper about the benefits of pornography. So the elder of the church, this is lots of years ago, he turned around so fast, all these years later, he's still on a neck brace. So he spins around super fast. He's like, the benefits of pornography. Like, yeah, that's my paper. He's like, let me sum it up for you. There are none. And he spun back around. And he's like, just did a huff about it. So I quoted him. So that's how I ended the paper. There are none. But so the purpose in doing that, like, a long time ago, long enough ago, it was a different life. I got to do some full contact fighting in California, which was super fun. And if you watch MMA now, like, we didn't do it for that event, but if you watch MMA now, then the fighters mock each other like the day before.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And that's a way of showing that I'm not afraid of you. And maybe something that I say will get under your skin and throw you off a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the game they play before they do the match. And that's kind of the title. Originally, when I started writing that paper, it was to set up a straw man just to burn him down. I did, as it turned, we'll get into porn, but I did find out there was a couple of social benefits to porn that I would not have expected otherwise. And so one of those is this video call. So the connection is that, let's suppose that, you know, your wife and my wife know each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want your wife to see me going in the gas station, getting the magazine on the top shelf,
right?
You know, in the black bag,
yeah.
Or going to that part of the video store when there used to be Blockbuster,
right?
Or going to that movie theater,
mm-hmm.
right? Or I'm a teacher in school, and like all these different things, right? I don't want people in my community to see me accessing my whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so that was a problem. It's a problem for me, the porn user, because now I can't get it. And it's a problem for the guy in California, the porn producer, because now he's not selling it.
Right.
So they're actually the ones who created this streaming technology, video-based technology.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
And so the benefit was, let's suppose that we're in a meeting, maybe let's go to church. And so I'm sitting in the pew, right? And you think that I'm looking at my Bible app. Oh no, I'm getting a hit. Right.
Yeah.
And so every week I go to a inpatient, or not inpatient, but residential drug rehab facility here in my town. I live in Western Minnesota. And we're working through a book called The 15 Laws of Growth, a Maxwell book called The 15 Laws of Growth. And so some of the guys have asked me, like, so what was your addiction? Well, I used to say that I didn't have one because I've never done coke and like all that other kind of stuff.
Right.
I haven't done that. So anyway, the guy asked me, and just like, so I answered directly. That was the first time I ever answered directly. So my addiction was porn.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that was true. Like, I knew about it, right? But I had never talked about it. I'd never said it out loud.
Yeah.
And I'm also not going to talk about it because, you know, I'm big, I'm strong. I've been a guy my whole life. I can beat this thing by myself. And I don't want you to know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to talk about it. Well, the thing is that shame lives in the dark. And I was like I kept it in the dark, right? That's where it belongs.
Yeah.
So shame lives in the dark. And the interesting thing about porn, so it portrays intimacy. Like, sex is supposed to be intimacy, right? And so porn portrays intimacy, but it creates separation.
Yeah.
It sells intimacy, but delivers separation.
Yeah.
My introduction to porn came when I was in 8th grade. That's when I was first introduced.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going on a hunting trip. So I was in Wisconsin at the time. I was 14. And at the time, I don't know what it is now, but at the time you could hunt by yourself without an adult at 14. And so I'm out for my first time. I'm bow hunting with another kid in my class, and we both brought survival equipment that we would need. So we're in Madison, Wisconsin. I don't know how deep in the jungle that really is, but we brought, both of us independently brought survival gear, right?
Yeah.
And so mine was like an extra knife and socks and food and matches and like that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He brought different stuff in his bag. He brought magazines that he had took from his dad. And as it turns out, for
Field and Stream?
no. I've since called them exercise magazines for the activity that it generates.
So his survival gear
Was
that
porn.
he brought was porn magazines.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep. He brought his porn magazines. Yep.
Oh,
So he
boy.
wasn't thinking survival, right? He's thinking 8th grade boy, I'm going to be in the woods by myself. Nobody will see.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want to do with porn, right?
Yeah.
I want to do this. Again, you think I'm in a meeting and I'm getting my hit, right?
Yeah.
So, because you can't see my screen.
Right.
And I'm going to be I'm going to guard my phone too.
Yeah.
I don't want you to get my phone because, I don't remember if I closed that tab, that kind of
Well,
thing.
what's funny is, after I call it coconuts 18 rather than I don't even want to give it any energy. If you'll figure it out after coconuts 18 happened, all the churches started streaming their services. And the irony of that is, like you were saying, one of the benefits of pornography was that they are the ones that really developed the streaming technology and pushed it forward.
Yep.
And here, all these churches and us, like right now, having this conversation. It's crazy.
Yep. Well, there's a Bible verse that says all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose.
Yeah.
So, my buddy brings these porn magazines, his dad's stash of porn mags, right? And so we're sitting on a rotted log somewhere in the woods. And would you believe we didn't get any deer?
Little
And so,
distraction.
yeah. So we're like, I'm not even thinking about deer. And like, who knew? Naked women are exciting. I didn't know that before. I didn't understand what I was looking at. Like, I'm a 14-year-old boy, right? I don't understand what I'm looking at. I do know I shouldn't be looking at it. I do know, like, instinctively, I just know that I shouldn't be looking at it. And also, I didn't want to put it down. So I grew up with just basically rejection. I am rejected. I went through all my teenage years in different kinds of foster settings, went to 5 high schools in 2 different states. I'm always the outsider.
Wow.
Right? Until not that long ago, I had a different job or a different industry every 3 years. I'm always somewhere different. I live in Western Minnesota now. This is the longest place I've ever lived in one house. In fact, I haven't even, so we've been here for 12 years. I haven't even been here for 12 years because I was a travel nurse. So my family lived here. I was always somewhere. So I've always been on the outside. Like if you're working with other professional men, you said like salesmen, I think we talked about, right? Or people that are just out in the field on their own.
Yeah.
That was me. And I'm ripe for like this kind of use. Right. Mm-hmm. So what I found in porn, like I didn't have language for it. I didn't even try to put language on it initially, right? This is just a thing I do. But when I finally put language on it, what I found in porn is I found that I'm accepted. I'm wanted. In fact, I'm desired. I found that I was desired. And anybody that I looked at, in fact, all the people that I looked at, because there's a different one on every page, was always interested, was always willing. They didn't care none of those women that don't really look the way they look in the picture and don't really have the name that they said. None of them cared if I'd had a good day or if I felt like a failure that day.
Yeah.
Always they were like eager to be alone with me.
Yeah.
Pretending to be intimate.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's one of the big challenges. I know we're talking about the benefits, but one of the big challenges is that a man will decide to stay home and use porn rather than face going out into the real world and facing
Right.
rejection, like going to a bar, for example, and getting turned down.
Right. This is the first time I ran into this. I've got a patient. This is several years ago. I'm a brand new nurse, and I asked him, "What do you do all day?" Well, I don't have a job. Okay, so what do you do all day? Like, you do something. What do you do all day? He said, "I watch Netflix and jack off."
Wow.
Okay, like, so what else do you do? No, like that's what he does. That is a day for him. Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, how about going to get a job, man? And so you don't understand. I have depression, and I thought, of course, I can't challenge him too hard because he'll complain to the supervisors, and the supervisors don't support nurses, like they do not. But anyway, so like, it'll be bad customer service if I challenge him. But I'm like, I think I might know why you're depressed.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, so for me, the same thing was true for me too. I didn't put it in that kind of language, and I wasn't doing the thing that like I always had to go to work if I wanted money. So I don't know how he was getting it, but still, he and I weren't that different. I wouldn't have admitted it. Well, anyway, so I don't know if they still say it, but they used to say that marijuana is the gateway drug, right? So I started with marijuana, and now pretty soon I'm doing heroin and fentanyl and whatever else.
Yeah.
But porn is the gateway drug. And so once you start looking at porn, this was my experience, once you start looking at porn, pretty soon, let's imagine if you had a kid and the kid just, learned to crawl, and pretty soon that's not good enough, so they learn to walk, and that's not good enough, they learn to run, right? And they want to do more stuff, so they end up on a tricycle or a big wheel. Like when I was a kid, it was a big wheel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's really cool, and look how fast I can go on the big wheel. But then I got a bicycle, I could go faster.
Yeah.
Then I got the training wheels off, I could go faster still, right? And then I got a car, now I ride a motorcycle, I can go faster, right? Porn is that way. So at first, porn is okay. Like the simple, I don't have a good word that wouldn't be super naughty, but anyway, the like beginning level porn that the other kid brought from his dad's stash, right? That was just simply pictures. And at first, that's, holy cow, that's way out there, the end of the envelope, right?
Yeah.
But before too long, then it progresses. And that's where a guy who's just a normal person finds himself looking at all kinds of weird things, or sometimes even things that are straight up illegal, that he never would have done before.
Mm-hmm.
And he got led there a little bit at a time, because if we just push you off in the deep end in the cold water, you'd be like, holy crap, that's cold, and you get out right away.
Yeah.
Right? But nope. Gets led to it a little bit at a time, right? So for me, I got inoculated against all things Christianity as a kid. And I'm in all these different homes in different states and everything. I have to go to church with whoever I happen to be staying with. So I got lots of different impressions on lots of different ways to talk about who is God, what does God think about you. And of course, like everybody else, especially children, we take what we're hearing about this mystical, invisible being that I've never actually seen, but he's got this great big book. I think it's called The Holy Book of Rules That You Never Follow. That's how it was for me. And we take that and then put it against, what do I see in the world around me? And what I saw in the world around me was there were church hymns being sung at home, but the singing was screaming, like high volume screaming, while pans were flying around the kitchen and cupboards were slamming.
Oh boy.
While singing Amazing Grace. I'm sorry, screaming Amazing Grace, right? That was a disconnect for me.
Yeah.
I love you while being choked or being hit with a belt buckle or just like other things. It was not super fun. So there was a disconnect for me. And always, I am bad. What I got out of that is that God is always angry at me. The Bible says anybody should come, but God found out that I signed up, and he's like, who let that guy in? So it's not that I did things that were bad. It's not that I did things that were sin. It's that I am sin.
Right.
I am bad. Right.
Yeah. A common theme. In fact, I just heard this just the other day, talking with a new client. Common theme is I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Right.
but Steve, for this first half here, let's go into some of the other benefits of pornography. So the first one was what the technology. Is that what you were trying to say, or?
Yeah, really, that title was just created to be facetious, like
Sure.
mocking your opponent.
Sure.
Right. That was it. I'd actually love to talk about this at a church because just the title would.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
would be
And
super
well,
fun.
clearly though, there are benefits to pornography because people wouldn't be doing it over and
Because we
over.
do
And
it.
there wouldn't be
Yep.
millions of people
Yep.
addicted to it. Dopamine.
So it's not. Yeah, dopamine's pretty strong, right? And so some benefits are, if you stretch the definition of the word, so not healthy benefits, but still we go to it. So the benefits we're looking for are acceptance. I am enough. I am good enough. I do make you happy. Like I am, I don't know, like all those things, right? I am a stud. I'm good, right? So we're looking for that. We're looking for I'm powerful. We're looking for that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to put out the effort or the energy that would be required in a relationship.
Yes.
Like the guy you mentioned, right? Well, I watch porn and I don't go to the bar
Yeah.
because if I, said anything to a girl, what if she said no, right?
Yep.
And in porn, you don't get rejected.
Mm-hmm.
So at the strip bars, you get rejected. I've experienced that. So the strip bars were fun, and then I even progressed from there. And so what I found going to any of those places is that, like all those things, I am wanted, I am desired, they do like me, like all this kind of stuff, right? And that was true, as long as I had money.
Yeah. We like you, and by the way, there's a 3-drink minimum.
Yeah, right. Or as long as my dollar bills, like while I'm paying the dancer, right,
Yeah.
then it's okay. Or I once spent 8 hours in a whorehouse. Spent my whole life not wanting to talk about that. So whether this will be published. But so I did, right? In fact, I wanted to be there so much that it cost enough money that I had to lie to the woman on the phone at Wells Fargo. That's where I was banking then. I had to lie to the woman on the phone about I have this car problem so that I can exceed my daily limit on my debit card to get the money out.
Mm.
I worked really hard to earn money at 23 or 24 cents a mile. I was an over-the-road truck driver then. That was a lot of miles, a lot of hours that I drove to give to, not willingly, I mean eagerly gave to this woman I've never seen before, right?
Yes.
To get the benefit that I wanted. So we say that we want sex, but I don't think that's really true. What I wanted was all those other things. We express it through sex, but What I wanted was all those other things, and I had to pay for it.
Let me ask you this. If you were to translate the dollars and time into miles, like, you know what I mean? Like, you had to drive X amount of miles to earn the money to pay these women. How many miles do you think? I know this is a hard question to answer, but if you were to guesstimate, how many miles did you have to drive to feed this habit?
I think roughly 3,300.
3,300 miles?
Yeah, probably more than that because I didn't calculate the effect of taxes. So yeah, that was
3,300 miles. And if you were to convert that into time, how much time do you think that is about on the road?
well, the legal answer at that time was 10 hours a day. But, I don't know how much we have to stay toward legal. My logbook was a work of fiction. So lots of
Wow.
hours.
So 10 hours. Wow. 10 hours a day.
So roughly 600 miles a day would be 5-6 days. Maybe 7 if you include the effect of taxes. Yeah. 5-6 days worth of work. And I was in that place for 8 hours, but I didn't spend 8 hours with that fake name woman. Right? That was maybe an hour or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, that doesn't include the cost of that really expensive frozen pizza.
And of course, the mental cost, the physical cost, all that.
Yeah. So all this time, like when that happened, that's 1988, 1989. That's not true. 1998, 1999, something like that. So the day before, this story really starts the day before that. So I'm inoculated as a kid. I'm inoculated against Christianity, right? But, and I have this I know you hate me, and also I'm still obligated to read this freaking book. So I hate reading the Bible. I know God hates me, so of course I'm not super inclined to talk to him too much because he's just always pissed, right? It's like going to see your manager that doesn't like you, right? And of course I don't want to go to church, which is easy for me because I'm a truck driver, so I'm never really around anywhere, right? And when I do go, I know how to smile for the camera and say the churchy things that you expect to hear so that you would think I'm one of you, right? Brene Brown talks about masks and shields, and I was fully stocked on masks and shields. So, well, anyway, so the night before, what's happening is I'm on my way to California in my car. I'm in my way to California to fight about a ticket that I shouldn't have gotten. I got lots of tickets that I really earned, but this one I shouldn't have gotten. But on my way there, I stopped in Wells, Nevada at a truck stop. While I'm looking at the menu at a table, when I flipped it over, there happened to be a map for this whorehouse, and I could drive there today. It's been lots and lots of years. I could drive there today without looking at it because I had been so well trained. I wasn't thinking about that kind of stuff. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't looking for it. I just turned it over and bam, it was there, and it caught me. I turned it over right away and I got up and left. But I can still see the map today. I can still see the map.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I start driving. I got to go to California. I got a couple hours further down the road and broke down in some small town somewhere. And so now I'm in a hotel overnight because it's too late and the shops are closed. I won't get fixed until tomorrow. I start thinking about this map. Of course, now I'm in small town somewhere in Nevada in the desert. I can't do anything about it. So next best thing is, maybe this would be better, I'm going to go to a bar and I'll hook up with that girl because, of course, we all know that all women in bars just are waiting for Steve to walk in. Right? I'm sorry, that's the fantasy anyway. So I'm just about to leave. I got my hand on the door handle. I'm just about to leave. And I hear, "Do you want to win?" I hear it like you and I are talking to each other. Do you want to win? well, I don't know what we're playing, but yeah. Like, yeah, I'd like to win with no more commitment than like, what kind of pizza do you want to eat?
Mm-hmm.
So that starts this conversation, which basically is, if you want to win, just stay inside. All you got to do is stay inside and you win. No Bible verses, no preaching, no nothing like that. I'm not talking about anything else. It's just, if you want to win, stay inside. Well, I finally went to bed. And I didn't go to bed because I wanted to stay inside or I wanted to win. I'm like, if I go to bed, the voice will probably stop talking to me. Right? Because I'm tired of talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I woke up in the morning. The court's not going to push the date for me. So I lose there and I'm pissed about that. I'm turning around to go back then. And I'm coming close to Wells, Nevada. I'm getting closer. And I hear, how are you doing this morning? Like, well, pretty good, actually. I slept actually way better than I expected to. And for the first time ever, I heard something that sounded like somebody was genuinely happy for me. I had never heard that before, or at least I had never accepted that somebody would be genuinely happy for me. But that's what it sounded like. It was like, I think that's because you won. And then I remembered the conversation the night before. I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I did win. So the Bible verse is, if you resist the devil, he'll flee from you. I guess it also works if you just go to sleep. So I did win. Well, I'm getting closer to Nevada and thinking about that and how happy I am that I won. And then I start thinking about this map I saw yesterday, and I'm coming back to that town. So I start to get off at the exit for the truck stop, which is also the exit for this brothel. I'm like, did you like winning last night? If you want to win again, all you got to do is stay on the road. And I go through all these gymnastics. Well, I'm just, going to get off and like, why? You're not tired. Why? You don't have to go to the bathroom. Why? You're not hungry. Why? You've already got Mountain Dew next to you. You've got a bunch of them next to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why? There's no reason to stop. Why? You don't need gas, right? And I stopped anyway. So I'm just going to hang out at the truck stop for a little bit. Well, I'll just drive over there. I'll just go inside. So I killed that voice. I made it stop talking to me. I'm sitting at the bar inside there. I'm watching a bunch of like super old people. Like, they look like footballs that have been left outside in the desert. While I'm there, the strongest man I've ever met came in. This brothel advertises free showers, like great big sign, right? So truckers will see it from the interstate. And that's a nice deal for truck drivers because you only get a shower for free if you got fuel at that truck stop.
Right.
But you might have to wait a long time, and it might not be clean, and it might whatever. So they advertised free clean showers. Yeah, of course somebody's going to stop, right? That's a lost leader for them. So this guy comes in. He's got his little duffel bag. He's like, you guys have free showers? And so, of course, they start trying to upsell him. And they go back and forth a few times. The strongest man I've ever met and the woman who's selling people. And he finally, he's angry now. Like, your sign says free showers. Do you have free showers, yes or no? They took him back. He took a shower, left a few minutes later. And I sat there on the stool the whole time like, oh, I wish I could be that guy.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get up. Well, anyway, so I spent a total of about 8 hours there, and drank a lot of super expensive Sprite and ate a really overpriced frozen pizza that they got at the grocery store. And it finally gave in to this walking menu that I've been looking at all day, right? And so I finally picked one and spent a lot of money. So I'm leaving. I'm a few miles down the road from Wells and, from that town. And I hear that really hurt. I'm expecting to hear yelling, screaming, slamming cupboards, like all that kind of stuff. I'm used to that. That's what I'm expecting to hear. I didn't hear any of that. I heard that really hurt. Like, that hurt me. Because you and I have a covenant. You understand contract, so we'll use contract, but it's really a covenant, which is a lot stronger. And my side of it is that I'll never leave you or forsake you. And so what that means is that I had to go with you. I sat at the bar with you. I was with you when you went back in that other room. Like, I died for that. And so that really hurt. Wasn't screaming, wasn't yelling. It wasn't like finger pointing. I'm trying to make you feel bad. It was simply just open communication, which was weird. I'd never experienced that before. It was just open communication. This is how that made me feel.
And this was on your way home from
Right.
the brothel.
Right.
Yeah. And you know, I don't know why this popped in my head right now, but when I was young, there was a movie with Dolly Parton and Sylvester Stallone called The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. And believe it or not, it was a musical. It is a strange movie, The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, with Sylvester Stallone and Dolly Parton, a musical about a whorehouse in Texas. And there's a song in the movie called Texas Has, well, I just remember this from the Texas has a whorehouse in it. Oh my goodness, oh my Lord. I mean, that was crazy. Like, and also just another side tangent too. I had watched this YouTube video that had compiled a lot of the popular TV shows from the 80s and such. And I'm like, I watched every single one of them. The amount of, all those TV shows, that movie that was on cable, The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, all this stuff that we dump into our minds. So, but anyway, I digress. You're telling your story. So you heard this voice that said, that really hurt.
Yeah. So that's unfair fighting, right? I'm expecting screaming, yelling, and instead I have this like open communication. That's just unfair fighting. And that was the beginning of the idea that that Jesus wants to have just a relationship with me. I want to do things with you. I want to, well, I am going to go places with you because we have this deal, right? But also I want you to come places with me. That was the beginning of that idea for me. All the time when I was doing that stuff, so I'm not married at that time, all the time when I'm going to those places, when I'm going to those kind of bars and whatever, I a long time ago stopped looking at the pictures or stopped looking at the bodies and would look at the faces. And what I saw, and in the faces, I looked at the eyes. So what I saw was blank, right? I know how to smile for the camera. I saw people that knew how to smile for the stage.
Right.
That's what I began to see. And I began to see, I'm still doing it. I mean, not right now, but at the time, right? So I'm still doing it, but I'm recognizing while I'm doing it that I'm in a transaction, right? So I'm accepted here only because I have money.
Yeah.
I'm a truck driver. I don't have gobs of money, but I'm accepted as long as I have money, right?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so I stopped driving a truck. I come back to Madison, and Madison, Wisconsin. That's where I graduated high school from, and now I'm like in a town, and I'm going to have to be a part of the community. So I can't do some of the things I've trained myself to want to go do, right? But I also don't want to be around other people, because what if you found out that I look at this stuff? What if you found out that I found out a way I'm still buying porn or whatever, right?
Right.
I don't want you to know. And so I'm really just isolated and lonely. It was a softball game, actually, that like an accidental softball game that began breaking me out of that. Also at that time, I don't talk to anybody. Like every conversation I had was, everything in my life was transactional, everything. The conversations I would have when I was a truck driver, I don't care what the weather's like. I don't care that you got a new house, that you got a new puppy, or that your puppy died. I don't care. I need to know how many doors, what pallets, like when does it have to be there, that kind of stuff. That's it, right? So when I became a contractor, that's what I was doing in Madison. When I became a home improvement contractor, I had to learn how to talk to people. So I had to learn how to have conversations, which was super hard for me. I did it with a tool called FORM, Family, Occupation, Recreation, and M is the message, because I could just let like you talk, like, are you married? Do you live around here? What kind of work do you do? Right? What do you like to do for fun? That's FOR. And then M is the message. And I was in control of whether I delivered the message. Like, let's get together again. I'd like to put your roof on, or no, I'm not interested in talking to you. And so I didn't deliver the message. But I had to use a tool to learn how to be able to talk to people. And so then I get married. And marriage is going to make it better, because now I live with someone who's going to want to have sex with me. And won't this be great?
Yeah.
And I've been trained by the stuff that I've looked at and the stuff that I've done, what that means and what kind of activities to expect. So won't this be great?
Yeah.
Well, as it turns out, I found out that women who are real and are not airbrushed don't have the same desires or attitudes that the women who are being paid to behave that way do.
Yeah. Shocker. Hey, Steve, we need to change gears here and wrap up this episode. Let's go into just one more. What's another benefit of pornography? So you
Well,
talked
again,
about
that whole title was meant to be facetious.
sure, of course.
And so the outside of streaming services, that's the social benefit that was real.
Right.
And I discovered it by having to I decided, like, if I'm doing it, I may as well do the research and like find out, right? And give this thing a fair shake. That's the thing that was real.
Mhm.
I guess potentially how there's an old dead philosopher from some country who thought things were good if they turned out good. I don't remember what his name is, but basically that was his idea. And so in that attitude, if you look at it that way, then a woman who finds herself about to be evicted or homeless or whatever, I guess guys too, but it's typically women, right? Can just perform for a little bit and they'll get some money, and then they can stay in their house or pay for school or whatever their thing is. So I guess to a point, that would be a benefit.
But the benefit comes with a big hidden cost.
Right. The cost is, it's not a value for value exchange. Like if I bought your car, I gave you some money and you gave me the car. We both benefited in the transaction, right? This is different. Even if I feel like I benefit in the moment because this feels good to me right now, well, the truth is, like when I spent that $800 that time, I didn't have $800 to just get rid of, right? And so that created financial problems for me, like that one event. So it wasn't a value for value exchange. But depending on how somebody looks at benefit, that would be one, is that typically a woman, but a man too, can turn a fair amount of money relatively quickly. And you don't have to go to school.
Yeah. Before we jumped on here, I was listening to a woman that was in pornography for many years. And she said, honestly, at the very beginning, it was good because I got all this money. But then she said she quickly learned that, yeah, she had all this money, but she said she felt really terrible about herself. She, was depressed. And so it's like that money is kind of like blood money, it's hurting other people. And so, yeah.
So Solomon writes about, right, the prostitute reduces you to a loaf of bread and all those other kind of things, right, in Proverbs. But the truth is that who's doing the selling and who's being sold? So I'm having to give up money for fake name Diamond or whatever, right, to play with me. And so she's selling me and turns me into a loaf of bread because she's using me for my money. But on the other side of that, I'm not developing a relationship with her. I don't even care that I know that her name is not real, but I don't care. I'm only interested in using her for the thing that I can get from it. So we, especially in the world of church, we apply that to men are being used, being turned into the loaf of bread. But the truth is that everybody in the transaction loses. Everybody is playing with the fantasy of or illusion of intimacy, but instead what gets delivered for both of us is separation, shame, just hiding, like all that kind of stuff, right? Like, I don't want people in my community when I was in Madison, right? I don't want you, another guy at church, to find out I do this thing. Well, the woman that you're just talking about also didn't want other people to find out. She might say she's an actress, but she wouldn't want just everybody to find out that she was a porn actress.
Yeah. And
Right.
let me jump in there. So when you say they're a porn actor, they're being paid to have sex on camera. It's a prostitute.
Yep. Yep.
So the one of the other so-called benefits of pornography is, and clearly, like I said, there clearly are benefits because people wouldn't keep doing it if there weren't, is that temporary, very temporarily good feeling at the moment of ejaculation, but then after comes mountains of guilt and shame.
Right. Right. The other side of that is when you find yourself in an actual relationship, well, then what? So, like, I go into my marriage with these, and of course we didn't talk about it because I don't want to talk about all these things that would be, like, I don't want women to know that I've spent that many years using women, right? And that's disgusting, and what are all these other things. And so I also didn't want to talk to my fiance about it. I finally decided I had to, because, like, well, I mean, this is where the relationship's going to end, but whatever, she should maybe find out now before she broken engagement's probably better than a divorce.
Right.
So I decided this will be better for her. I actually told her as a way to sabotage my relationship. That's what I was really doing. I was trying to sabotage it. So that's just like unhealthy thinking. But I have these unrealistic expectations of what sex and marriage is going to be. And because I've never had a relationship, I never had to practice or develop the skill of having those kind of conversations. Because in a transaction, there's very little conversation, right? And it's about, like, what toppings do you want on your hamburger? Like, that's it. So yeah, it is true. If we wanted to stretch the word if we wanted to stretch the definition of benefit, that we could manufacture some, but compared against the cost of getting that benefit, no.
Right. And that's a great way to put it, the cost benefit. Like, what there are some benefits to pornography, but are they worth the cost? And there's a huge cost.
Porn does a lot of the same things in the brain that other drugs would do. The drugs I might sniff or snort or inject, right? Does a lot of the same things in the brain. And so that's why we talk about porn as an addiction, because son of a gun, it is. And so the problem is, like, I have these unmet, so I'm always jonesing for my fix, right? If I'm going to be an addict, then I'm always jonesing for my fix. I'm thinking about, where can I get my next fix, right? I can shoot up again when I get off work, and I get off work at 4 today, so I got 3 hours left, and I'm off work, and then I can shoot up, right? That kind of thing. And I'm off for 2 days, and so they'll never know, right? That kind of thing. And that's where, so it puts sex, instead of just being a part of an overall relationship, like the way it was designed to be, and then it works like really, really good. Instead of being a part of an overall relationship, instead, it's this primary focus way up here that everything else becomes subservient to, second to, right? Including relationships, like relationships that I still have, right? So suppose, well, I'm married, but in fact, tomorrow, I'm leaving town tomorrow to fly down to Florida. And so maybe I go and hook up with somebody in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been looking all this time, because I'm going to have freedom, nobody knows me, like all this kind of thing, right? So if that's an active addiction, holy cow, that's why that kind of thing makes it really dangerous, right? Because what porn does, especially as we progress in it, it elevates, artificially elevates, but it elevates sex to some super, like, this is the primary thing I need to get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that title was entirely meant to be facetious, like mocking my opponent. In fact, I wrote it as angry because I realized that of all the things we brought on that hunting trip as an 8th grade boy, I've very, very few times I've been out like, well, I really need a set of dry socks right now. Right. But so I got introduced to porn as an 8th grade boy sitting on a rotted log next to some other kid whose name I don't know. And that thing had a control on my life for a super long time.
Yeah.
So when I started writing that thing, I wrote it out of being like, I really thought about, I am mocking my enemy and I'm fucking going to war. So I did.
So what would you say to someone that's listening right now that is really struggling with this addiction and has pretty much kept it to themselves? They haven't said anything to anyone, but they're just kind of silently struggling. What would you say to that person?
That I understand. Yeah. Because I lived it for a long time. Ultimately, it drove me to being suicidal.
Mm.
Probably don't have time to go into that story, but ultimately it drove me to suicidal because, and ultimately, all of the people that I've known, so I've been an ER nurse and I have mental health background. And so I've talked to lots and lots of people who are somewhere on the pipeline of suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter what the researchers say. They're probably super smart people and they've read lots of paper and then they get peer reviewed and that's all wonderful. I've talked to people on the ground who are in the middle of it. They talk about suicide very differently than the people who write about it and read about it. The people who live it talk about it differently. So nobody who is like, I've just shot myself, I just overdosed, I was just about to step off a limb with a noose tied around my neck. None of those people said I was thinking about dying by suicide. No. They're all, I'm going to kill myself. The researchers say, like, the gentler way to talk about it is that that person died by suicide. Well, the people who live in it, they don't use that language. They use very plain language. I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the reason that we all get there, the route might be different, but where we all land is, I don't have any value.
Yeah. Great point.
And that's where I landed. I don't have any value.
Right. And that's where the whole, Powerful Eric thing came in. I was going to all these recovery programs where the first step is we were powerless over whatever the addiction is, but they interpret it as we are powerless. There's a huge difference.
Yeah.
And so then that day came along where I'm like, I'm not calling myself powerless anymore. I'm Powerful Eric now. Because God don't make no junk.
Right. Yeah. So for me, it came down to, who am I as a person? Who do I need to be as a person? About the value thing, like where this began to turn for me is I'm sitting in a room that I'm renting. I'm on a travel assignment. I took that travel assignment, which was going to be 3 months. I stayed for 6. I extended. But I took that travel assignment with the plan of committing suicide on my way home.
Oh, wow.
So I hugged my wife, I kissed my wife, I said goodbye to my kids, all that stuff, got in my car, went down to Missouri. Like, I'll call you when I get down there. I know how to wear masks. I know how to carry shields. I've been doing it my whole life. So I hugged them and kissed them and like all this thing. They knew that I took guns down with me. It was like, I'm going to go shooting. I'm going to be in Missouri. There are probably other people who'd like to go
Yeah,
shooting.
I'm in St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah, yeah. And so, like, not shooting in the neighborhood, that's very different, right? But I'm going to meet some people down there, and we'll probably want to go to the range. So I'm going to take some guns, right? But I also took the gun that I chose because I'm going to go for a walk in somebody's cornfield in Iowa on my way home, make a loud noise, and that'll be the end of it. That's my plan.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in my room. I'm holding the gun in my hand, looking at it. Like, today's not the day. I'm just thinking about the day, right? And began to have another one of those unexpected conversations where about, and basically that was, I wonder how much value you really have. Well, not any. Like, as evidenced by, that's how nurses talk, as evidenced by, I don't have a good relationship with my wife. None of my friends call me when I'm traveling. When I get home, I'm just an interruption to everybody. So none, right?
Yeah.
I like collect a check. I pay my bills. That's my life.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have any value.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter that the patient who I've never met before says, thanks for taking care of me. You did a really good job starting the IV. It didn't even hurt. Like, none of those things added value. Like, of course I'm good at my job. Aren't other people good at their jobs? Of course I am. Right?
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
not value. So anyway, I had to go through like this big, like, working through. This is not flipping a switch. And yesterday I felt bad. Today I feel great. It's not that. I did a lot of freaking work trying to, like, do I have any value? John Maxwell wrote a book lots of years ago called The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. This is actually Law 3. I didn't know this then, but this is actually Law 3, the law of the mirror. And it says that you have to see value in yourself to add value to yourself. I was on the tail side of that. The tail side of the coin, the negative side, right, is I don't have any value. And so I'm treating myself as if I don't have any value, right? Well, I had to consider, is it possible that I have value that I don't see, that I'm not aware of? So this is analogous to if you go to the beach to go metal detecting. You start with the idea that, well, there might be something valuable out there. So I take the day off and I spend the money to rent the metal detector and all this stuff. I get sunburned and it's all worth it because I might find something really cool. I had to go and look for value inside myself, not the things I'm able to do, not the things I have, not any of that kind of stuff, but value that might be inside me. I had to start from like, well, maybe, just like going metal detecting, like, well, maybe. But if there is, that'll be really cool. I didn't have the idea that'd be really cool. I'm like, well, if there is, that'll be a big surprise. That's how I started.
Yeah.
But anyway, so to do that, I had to treat myself as if I have value. Which is, I found out later when I found that book, I found out like that, oh, that is the law. You have to see value in yourself to add value to yourself. So I began treating myself as if I have value.
Love it. Love it. You started treating yourself as if you had value.
Yep. It doesn't mean that I knew that I did. Like, okay, well, just like on the chance. It's the same thing you do for your car. So my son at this point in time is 16 years old. So he's just learned how to drive, right? He's 22 now and married and looks at cars differently. But so at the time he's 16, he's got his first car and the car stops working and he doesn't have any money to fix it. And he's not controlling his attitude very well. So he goes out to the car and beats on it with a hammer, which is not the way that most mechanics fix cars. So he's beating on the hood with a hammer. The car doesn't have any value to him, and he's treating the car as if it doesn't have any value, right? Well, what do you do with your car if you think it does have value? You like make sure that tires have air, you change the oil,
Sure.
right? Make sure the radiator's got fluid in it, like stuff like that. Fill it
Maybe
up with
wax
gas
it.
once in a while, right? Yeah, give it a bath, right? You do things, probably get them dice on it because every car's got to have dice, I guess, or some weird thing hanging from the trailer hitch. So you do things to add value to the car because the car has value to you. That's what I had to do for Steve.
Yeah.
I'll just pretend that Steve has value and then
I
treat it.
absolutely love your analogy. I absolutely love your analogy. If you were a car, if you had the car, you would take care of it. You would take care of the engine. You would polish it, clean it, treat it not with a hammer. You wouldn't bang on it with a hammer. So as a human being, you can treat yourself as if you have value, even if you don't feel like you have value. Act as if, of course you have value. God don't make no junk.
So that's how you change your life in other ways too, right? Says the guy who doesn't run a lot. I don't run a lot. Like that's read ever. But if I decided, well, I want to go and run a marathon, right? But I don't run marathons today. In fact, I bought a car so I wouldn't have to run. But if I wanted to start running, it would really come down to, okay, not what do I need to do to run a marathon, but it'd be who do I need to be
Yes.
to run a marathon? Well, I would need to be a person who does stuff that marathon runners do. What do they do, right? So I'd find out what marathon runners do, and I would start to be that person.
Yes. Absolutely. And then if you start doing the things that a runner does, then what does that make you?
Eventually I become a runner.
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
So, I could talk on this for quite a while here, but we are coming to an end here.
Oh, well, let's go back to the guy you're talking about who is still hiding.
Okay.
Right? Doesn't want anybody to know.
Okay.
So that isolation ultimately drove me to the edge of suicide. That wasn't the first time I picked up a gun. I picked up a gun a lot of times. Like when I declared bankruptcy, right? Take my wife to federal bankruptcy court for a hot date. That's fun to do, memorable, right? I don't recommend it for a first date, but anyway, so like there'd been lots of times, and every time it was easier to pick the gun up and harder to put the gun down. But as far as the isolation or hiding thing, then find somebody. This is a delicate topic. This is not the same as I broke my leg, it really hurts. I should find a random doctor I've never met before and said, hey, I got like where this bone is sticking out, it hurts there. This is not that, right? This is a deeper thing. That's why we never talk about it. So find the person who you're willing to risk, because you're not going to know this because you've never had this conversation. You have to find the person that you're willing to take the risk. I think that this person will guard my secret, right? And then I think that tomorrow I'm still going to have a relationship with this person. So for me, one of those first people was my friend Jeff. He was my scuba dive buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a very real way, when Jeff and I would scuba dive, in a very real way, his life was in my tank. My life was in his tank, because scuba divers carry air for their partner as much as for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
In a very real way, when Jeff and I are underwater, we haven't done this for a really long time. Scuba diving is really fun. But so in a very real way, while we're diving, Jeff's life is in my hands, right? Or his life is in my hands. So, but for a long time, even though if we're going to talk about diving together, and that's a risky thing, but we're excited about it, I still wouldn't talk about my real thing. So eventually I had to. Like I had to take the risk, right?
Yeah.
So for the guy that's hiding, that's the first thing he has to do is find the person that you're willing to take that risk with. And then take it. And, gently at first. Or jump in the deep end of the pool, like whatever. But you eventually do have to get in the pool. Doesn't matter if it's the kiddie end or the deep end. But you do have to have a dive buddy.
Yeah. And that's great advice. You do need to have a dive buddy to dive into healing this, whether it is a best friend whether it's a spiritual leader, priest, whatever, therapist, coach, to break the silence and take that dive with somebody. And that's where the healing is going to begin. So, Steve, if somebody is interested in learning more about you and what you do, your coaching, what's some of the things that you like to coach on, and how do people find you?
Well, I'm pretty easy to find. So when I'm working with an individual, I help people close the gap between where they are and who they want to be. And I realize that there's a disconnect between what and who, but that's on purpose. Just like we were talking about with runners, right? It's not like, well, you need to start running. No, it's you need to decide who you are as a person. So for people, I help people to close the gap from where they are to who they want to be. And when I work with organizations, I help organizations create a culture that inspires employee engagement and makes people want to be a part of their cause. So that's what I do. I don't really have a niche, I guess. But I love connecting with people. So this is new for me, right? I've gone from the guy who I'd never have a conversation, and every conversation I do have is about just the transaction, right? To I really enjoy connecting with people.
Right.
So that's been its own journey. But anyway, so my website is maximpact.com, MACSIMPACT.com. And my email is my name, Steve, at maximpact.com.
Awesome. So if you're inspired to reach out to Steve, please do. And thanks for joining us on this enlightening discussion with Steve McElmurry on the quote unquote benefits of pornography.
Yeah.
We delved deep into this challenging topic, and I hope you're walking away with some valuable insights to help you on your journey. If you found this episode impactful, please share it with someone who could benefit from the conversation. And remember, breaking free from addiction is not just about what you're leaving behind, but also about the powerful person you are becoming. Until next time, I'm Powerful Eric, reminding you that change is possible and you have the strength to make it happen. Stay strong, stay powerful, and I'll see you on the next episode.
Is it still recording?
Are you struggling with porn or sex addiction? Then apply for a free strategy call with Eric today at powerfuleric.com.
Eric, is it still recording?